3 years ago, the Imperial League disintegrated, and the gaming genius Mo Bei quietly retired. 3 years later, she disguised herself as a man returned undercover, going from being despised to re-ascending to the altar, causing a nationwide uproar. He is handsome, abstinent, has countless fans, and is well known in the esports industry. At the beginning of joining the team, he said to her, "Be calm and don't have any ulterior motives." Later, when her identity was exposed, he looked up from the table, stood up slowly, and said, "In the game, after getting married, you want to keep going." The voice approaching her ear made her inexplicably feel guilty. "Otherwise, what do you say?" He leaned over and pressed her against the table, his breath approaching, "Make the marriage relationship real." Keywords of the novel. Esports God's Secret Love for Me without pop-ups, Esports God's Secret Love for Me full collection download, Esports God's Secret Love for Me latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. The Return of Yesterday's Genius. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Return of Former Geniuses. I didn't do those things, I just wanted to play the game well. When Mo Bei walked in, what he saw was the way her brother lowered himself and wanted to fight for it. But the other side of the phone clearly didn't want to give him this opportunity, and even someone else answered, "Monan, you're still so naive. Did you do those things? Is it important? Even if I had someone frame you, what's the difference? What's the difference between a hand injury and a useless person now? Don't make things difficult for the manager anymore. Even if the manager helps you speak, the other team members won't agree to you coming back to lower our level." Pop. The crisp sound of hanging up made Nange's fingers stiff heavily. It is obvious that the club has made a decision to abandon him because he is no longer of any value. Not willing, he is really not willing. "Brother," a slightly cold voice sounded in my ear. Nange turned around and saw his sister, who was about to put away her embarrassment. Mo Bei said again, "I'll play for you in the upcoming competition." "What?" Nange was shocked and his eyes flickered with light. Mo Bei grabbed his pants pocket and chuckled lightly, "Why don't you believe my level?" "How could I not believe your level?" Nange murmured, "But..." Mo Bei casually interrupted him, "We look the same, and no one in that circle has ever seen me. I disguise myself as you, and no one will doubt me. Indeed, no one except him knows that secret." 3 years ago, she was the #1 Chinese server that became popular in Honor A and was sought after by countless players. However, she retired at the peak of her career as a female. If it were her comeback, even Monan couldn't imagine what kind of sensation it would cause. "Are you really going?" "Of course," Mo Bei said as he picked up his scissors and swiped his long hair with a handsome and heart-stopping gesture. When he turned his eyes again, his messy black short hair gave off a faint light and said, "I have to tell those people that my brother can't bully anyone who wants to." 1 month later. High-speed railway station. Because it is a holiday, there are particularly many people on the platform. In the middle, the young man with a clear and handsome figure was very eye-catching. His green body was draped in a dark suit jacket, unabashedly endowing him with a heart-stopping and handsome demeanor. Many young children are already looking towards this side. The young man smiled lightly, causing a crimson hue. Wang Dong, the assistant who came to pick up the person, couldn't help but feel stunned after seeing this scene. After all, he couldn't connect the elegant young man in front of him with the non-mainstream person who smashed the keyboard when he lost the game before. What's wrong with this person? Shouldn't they be possessed by ghosts? Mo Bei had seen a photo of Wang Dong before coming, and according to her brother's opinion, the assistant was the only person he trusted. Since that's the case, let's start with him and see if he can distinguish her identity. Dong. Mo Bei walked over with a smile on his face. Wang Dong looked as if his tongue had been picked up by a cat and said, "Did you dye your hair?" He said, "Why does he always feel different?" "I used to dye my hair." It must be because of this that he has the illusion that the other person has become more elegant. Well, it's died. Mo Bei thought of her brother's dazzling yellow hair and smiled. What's wrong? It's not good. Looking. Before Wang Dongdong could answer, the two suddenly encountered a current limit and screams rang out without warning. Ah ah. God K, my favorite God K. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. First encounter of Esports male god. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 2. First encounter of Esports male god. Amidst the crowds, posters were raised everywhere, and the enthusiasm of fans was like fire, burning in a mess. Mo Bei lowered his head and looked at the support poster left behind by the owner under his feet. On the front is K God, and on the back is I like you. Subconsciously, Mo Bei bent down and picked it up. However, Wang Dongdong seemed to suddenly understand something beside him, feeling extremely heartbroken. Male god, I thought you had changed. I didn't expect you to have this kind of plan. Did you know that during the interview, K God said he liked cleaner people, which is why you dyed your hair back black? You are too cunning. Mo Bei opened her mouth, wanting to say that her hair had always been this color, but remembering that she was playing her brother now, she could only raise the corner of her mouth, feeling quite helpless. Male god, really? In order for me to survive, you really can't be like before anymore. Wang Dongdong looked serious and said, don't even think of encountering God K here. Let's go now. Mo Bei laughed and said, it's too exaggerated, right? You forgot how you hugged someone's thigh last time and wanted to confess to them. Wang Dongdong looked like a walking emoji. I was exaggerating. What I was most exaggerating about was not stopping you. Mo Bei paused for a moment and choked on the words on her lips. Did she? Holding someone's thigh and confessing. Hurry up, let's go. Wang Dongdong is still urging, afraid that the non-mainstream will not be able to walk when they see K God. Mo Bei did not provide much explanation, as he could vaguely see the black and red team uniforms amidst the crowd's pursuit. As a new member who will report soon, she has an identical team uniform in her suitcase. It's really fate. Mo Bei's thin lips curled and she thought about going to the least crowded exit, but she didn't expect to bump into something as soon as she turned around. This scene happened too suddenly, and the man's long legs pulled back, but he still couldn't avoid it. K God. The assistant following the man wanted to pull away his young master, but it was too late. Those two people have already collided and are still in a very ambiguous position. The tip of his nose rubbed against it, and before Mo Bei could feel the pain, he poured in all the pleasant tobacco and lemon mixed breath. Opposite Fong looked at her with furrowed brows, slightly arched back due to curvature, and the team uniform slid slightly downward due to her rubbing and pulling, revealing the sexy collarbone inside. At a startled glance, it was a semi-transparent cold white skin, as if it were high-quality porcelain in jade, noble and abstinent. At this moment, Mo Bei realized that she seemed to be in the other person's arms. The residual warmth from the man's chest touched his face, causing Mo Bei to feel a bit confused and his limbs to freeze. Probably too close, when Mo Bei raised his eyes, it seemed as if he could even touch the person's breath. Fortunately, the other person was wearing a mask on their face, with a pure black color that covered their face and only revealed a pair of lingering and affectionate eyes, but it exuded a refreshing and indifferent coldness. She knows this person. Even though he still wears a black mask on his face, it doesn't feel wrong. Mo Bei still vividly remembers the scene he saw on the screen a year ago. A figure in the back, without any support from teammates, killed the opponent's blood pool all the way, fought back on point 1, and won the championship. From then on, Mo Bei remembered the game ID, King. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Two generations of male gods facing each other. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 3. Two generations of male gods facing each other. The top scorer in the Chinese server, the most popular player. A face comparable to a popular superstar, many investors are looking for him to shoot advertisements. Helplessly, the deity is too high and the family background is too deep, to the extent that some media dare not report recklessly. Of course, the other party doesn't know her. People come and go, Mo Bei hasn't moved yet. Wang Dongdong has already reached out and pressed his hand on his forehead. It's over, whether it's him or non-mainstream, it's all over. He is very skeptical now, whether he has been caught up in his own non-mainstream routine. He chose to come back at this point because he knew K-God would be here today. The more you think, the more likely it is. Wang Dongdong wants to cry. After all, everyone is not blind. Even if non-mainstream people dye their hair, their face remains unchanged. As expected, the other party's assistant exploded upon seeing Mo Bei's appearance. It's you again. You're really determined not to change your mind. Last time you infiltrated the backstage, this time you pretended to be a fan. I've said it many times, stay away from our God. Can't you understand? He really didn't expect that men who are obsessed with flowers would be so scary. This Mo Nan is a well-known figure in the circle who enjoys riding on people's popularity. What happened last time has already made people unhappy, how dare he come? On this side, Mo Bei frowned and said, pretend to be a fan. Damn it, you still want to deny it, look at what you have in your own hands. The assistant was going crazy. You know what the young master hates the most are these crooked men. Mo Bei lowered his head and followed the assistant's gaze. There was still the poster on her suitcase, which was a perfect misunderstanding. I can explain. I don't want to hear it. The man opened his mouth, his eyes lazily like a wisp of morning mist that had not yet dissipated. The impatience in his voice could be heard through his black mask, probably because he had caught a cold and couldn't control his emotions, with a hint of resentment. Let go, then roll away. Get lost. After hearing this word, Mo Bei tilted his head slightly, smiled slowly, and then lifted his hand. The poster was thrown in a straight line into a nearby black bucket. Crisp and neat. Then, she slipped her hand into her pants pocket and casually turned her head, saying, You don't need to listen, after all, I just picked up trash to throw away. 4 eyes facing each other. How could the aura created by the collision of the two be evenly matched? Suddenly. Whether it was the other party's assistant or Wang Dongdong, their mouths were wide open and their eyes were shaking. What did they just see? This curvaceous man, who is not mainstream, actually threw the poster of K-God into the trash can. Plus his words, it's like dropping a bomb on the ground. But the person who threw the bomb seemed to have nothing to do, holding a suitcase and casually saying, Winter, let's go. Oh, yes. Wang Dongdong followed like a wandering soul, feeling that the world was a bit unreal. On the other hand, the assistant was already furious and said, This curvaceous man, he thought he was who he was. He wanted to crush you so much before. Enough. The man's nasal voice was still a bit heavy, but his voice was faint. He walked straight towards the other side, with long legs like a walking hanger. Even in a noisy environment, it was hard to conceal his shining and noble demeanor. The elevator merged, and he didn't speak anymore. He just lifted his eyes, his deep night-like eyes looking towards the direction Mo Bei was leaving, and his eyebrows slightly raised. The assistant knows that their boss is in a bad mood. I dare not say more. Just that Mo Nan, the means are really getting higher and higher. What was that just now? He indulged in his desires. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. There are also people with the same speculation, including Wang Dongdong. He drove his own QQ, and as he thought about it, it became more and more inappropriate. He turned his head and began to earnestly ponder, I know you plan to use any trick because you like the K-God, but you also need to think about how smart the K-God is. Can't you tell that you were indulging in lust just now? Mo Bei was originally propping his chin with one hand, gazing at the scenery outside the car window. After hearing this sentence, his fingers tapped his profile and said, "Me. Why indulge in lust?" Although it was an ordinary action, performed by a young man, it fell into the bones with a noble touch. Wang Dongdong was stunned for a moment. This non-mainstream is really a bit different. But he couldn't say exactly what was different. I just feel that this person exudes a comfortable aura all over. Comfortable. How could it be? He must have gotten up too early today and lost the most basic judgment. Thank goodness the non-mainstream didn't cause trouble for him. Wang Dongdong shook his head, shook off his illusions, and spoke earnestly, "It's not about lust or indulgence. I threw the poster in front of God K, just to make God K look at you differently. You don't have to say, I understand. Mo Bei. All you understand is your brain teaser. But really, male God, you have to stop here. If you cause any more trouble, the company will definitely fire me. I beg you, even if you like K God, you can secretly like him in your heart, okay? Mo Bei's tone is very slow. You seem to have misunderstood, I don't like him. Wang Dongdong chuckled twice and said, "Don't like it. Do you think everyone is blind? Have you forgotten what you did before?" Mo Bei raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "So, can you tell me what I did? It's not easy to get a chance to roast." Wang Dongdong counts from beginning to end, sneaks into the backstage, has a dissolute style, and has strong enthusiasm. After speaking, Wang Dongdong angrily stopped the car and said, "What else do you have to say?" "No. Indeed not." Mo Bei tilted his eyes. "Those people are really ruthless. So, be more reserved and don't provoke the God K anymore," Wang Dongdong said after getting off the car and entering the building. Mo Bei basically figured out what was going on and casually lifted his eyes, saying, "Okay." Wang Dongdong was inexplicably choked on such a good character. When did the non-mainstream become so obedient? What he said before, the other party would treat it as if they hadn't heard it and wouldn't even put his advice in their ears. What's going on today? Wang Dongdong, who had been fantasizing for a whole day, was already feeling a bit heavy-headed. After watching the slender figure walk into school, he realized a question. Did non-mainstream students find an excuse to skip classes? Miracle, this is simply a miracle. Mo Bei himself doesn't think it's a big deal. As a high school student, of course, he needs to come to the school to report first. However, when she appeared at the classroom door wearing a suit jacket and carrying a backpack, the originally lively sound was immediately silenced. Mo Bei's personality is already indifferent and aloof, and he is currently the favorite iceberg beauty of young girls. In addition, she was wearing a suit and exuded a slight sense of abstinence. At that moment, the only thing that made people feel was stunning. Who is this, so handsome? Is it a new teacher? With such a teacher, Mom no longer has to worry about my high math skills. Wait a minute, it's not the teacher, look at the seat he's sitting in. Mo Nan. How could this be possible? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Calls Nange handsome. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Calling Nange handsome. The whole class's eyes widened, as if they couldn't connect with the iceberg prince and the fiery Monin in front of them. Finally, one of the yellow hairs regained his voice and said, Nangu. Mo Bei knew about this yellow hair. Her brother's friend in class, Zhao Jianjian. Nange, how did you become like this? How could we collect protection fees from those good students at number 1 middle school across from you? Zhao Jianjian shouted in a unique voice. Mo Bei couldn't count how many times she sighed and how much her brother had done that she didn't know. Nange, don't keep sighing. I know you're in a bad mood because of the competition, but we've arranged a fight with the opposite number 1 middle school. It's just tonight on the playground. Why don't you go change your clothes and save your image? Zhao Jianjian said seriously, otherwise, they don't know our ferocity. Mo Bei put away his backpack and said in a faint voice, let's have a good class first. Okay, come on, class. Zhao Jianjian really never thought that these 4 words would come out of the mouth of Nange, the king of truancy. What do they usually do in class? Carrying the teacher behind my back and playing games on my phone under the desk, either it's teasing girls from other classes. When did you have a good class? Zhao Jianjian doesn't believe in evil anymore. Why don't we discuss such an important matter of scheduling a fight? Completely not in line with his southern brother's character. He simply took out his phone and posted a message in the WeChat group. Nange, are you there? Class 4 socialite. What are you calling Nange for? Class 3 wolf dog. I guess we're out of cigarettes. We need to smoke. Class 5 Huang Mao. Appointment, serious business, don't interrupt. Class 4 socialite. That's indeed a serious matter, Nange, come out quickly. The phone in the desk kept shaking, and the sound made Mo Bei roll his eyes, a light and indifferent tone. Zhao Jianjian gestured to the other person to look at their phone with his eyes. I didn't expect his brother Nan did take out his phone, but the next second. Zhao Jianjian only received one WeChat prompt. Your boss Nange has left the group. This is so awkward. Are we still scheduled for today's fight? Obviously, Mo Bei is not the only one who decides whether to make an appointment or not. When she was carrying her backpack and wanted to solve the accommodation problem. A group of people were on the playground outside the school. They didn't recognize her at first glance, but on the second glance, the smoke dropped. They reached out and stopped her, saying, look who this is, our professional athlete, Mr. Mo. Unfortunately, she's now a waste. Why did you dye your black hair and put on your backpack? Are you preparing to start over again? The boy in school uniform bent down with disgusted eyes. People like you who came out of scumbag schools should rot to the end and even try to be a god of K. Please keep your face. Upon hearing this, Mo Bei's eyes lit up. Zhao Jianjian looked at him from a distance and realized that something was wrong. He immediately ran over and advised his hot-tempered Nange in a low voice, don't be impulsive. We have fewer people, and it's not cost-effective to fight. 2-on-10, this is the rhythm of being eliminated by the team in the game. Moreover, his southern brother appears to be okay on the surface, but when it comes to fighting, he's just a paper tiger. Well, we must come up with a strategy to escape quickly. Zhao Jianjian tilted his gaze, wanting to give his Nan brother a wink. But before he could blink, a sudden gust of wind could be heard in his ear. It was one side that raised a baseball bat. Dead set, now he and Nange are both dead set. Just as Zhao Jianjian was protecting his head and preparing to roll in place. With a bang. The new book was released too suddenly, I wanted to secretly update 2 chapters. I will update it on the 14th. After the book was released, I found that the new book swept 3 lists. Thank you, girlfriends. Tomorrow is a charity event for giving rewards. Remember to receive red envelopes and come over to give rewards to break records. This time, we will leave something to make up for the regret of the school draft. Also, good night, love you all. End of this chapter. 6, Chapter 6. North Brother becomes famous with one strike. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. North Brother becomes famous with one strike. Originally standing in place, Mo Bei, with his long legs, kicked over the nearest person first. Then, he threw his backpack forward and, caught in the wind, threw it straight onto the other person's face. The boy next to him wanted to raise his stick when he saw the situation, but he didn't expect the backpack in the boy's hand to come back. He was just holding the backpack strap with one hand, and the strong rebound made him dizzy for half a day. Zhao Jianjian has already looked foolish. They were not annihilated by the group. On the contrary, the other party seems to have been beaten a bit miserably. However, it was the first time he had seen someone fight so beautifully. When his southern brother was still fighting, he tugged at the collar of his suit, turned over, and gave another handsome kick. It's okay to not give the other party any room to fight back at all. There is no intention of sweating at all. After finishing the fight, he leaned forward and reached out to pat the soil on his backpack. Standing there with a noble demeanor, his profile was sharp and angular, like a walking poster. It really doesn't seem like a bad student who just had a fight. He is completely different from the fiery and thunderous person he used to be. The most important thing is that Nange turned his head and asked in a rare soft voice, "Are you okay?" Zhao Jianjian was just about to speak up. I heard a little milk voice coming from somewhere, with a hint of coughing. "Little brother, I'm fine." Hey. 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 Is that, okay, actually not what Nange said to him. This kind of little milk speaker is really eye-catching on the playground of Yuejia. After all, who came to arrange a fight and brought a child? Anyway, Zhao Jianjian stopped his movements and looked down at the ground with an indescribable expression. That's right. It's underground, Xiaonai's voice is too small. He wears a small suspender, a black down jacket, and a mask. He knows those shoes, and one shoe is enough for his monthly living expenses. Are you 5 years old? Little brother. So flaunting wealth is too much. The people in number 1 middle school were still dissatisfied and shouted, "If you have the ability, wait for me, Monan." This shout doesn't matter. Xiao Nain directly reached out and hugged his Nange long leg. He didn't have any space left for him. Mo Bei lowered his eyes and looked at the unfamiliar little boy in front of him. He reached out and touched his furry head, but his voice remained calm. Don't be afraid. Xiao Nain had big eyes and excessively long eyelashes. Mo Bei raised his head slightly and picked up the baseball bat from the ground. He looked at the group of people in a straight suit, full of abstinence, and said, "Do you still want to play?" The strong air field immediately made the air condense. The person from number 1 middle school stepped back while jumping high, and the scene was very funny. We'll just endure your day. It is not an exaggeration to describe a person from number 1 middle school as having fled in despair. Mainly, how could Mo Nan suddenly be so capable of fighting? After the venue is empty. Mo Bei held his backpack and looked back at the little boy holding her long legs. The little boy was also looking at her, with beautiful eyes that always gave a subtle sense of familiarity. As a bystander, Zhao Jianjian couldn't help but ask, "Nange, do you know this little rich kid? Shouldn't his southern brother have given birth to a child outside? No one told him, right? This doesn't look like it either." I don't know. Mo Bei lowered her eyes again. She had just noticed such a little boy, so she threw her backpack out. Otherwise, if the baseball bat came down, it might hurt him. So, what should we do? The school doesn't allow raising children to my girlfriend. You're showing off your wealth so much, it's too much. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Who owns this cute treasure? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Who owns this cute treasure? Zhao Jianjian is a rough guy who has never had contact with such a young child. Mo Bei didn't speak, he took a step first. Xiao Nain didn't let go and followed her, coughing through the black mask. Mo Bei simply turned his head and said, "Where are you going?" "I'll take you back." Xiao Nain's eyes lit up and her voice came out from her mask. "Little brother, I want to go across the street." Across the street. Lying trough. First middle school. Zhao Jianjian seemed to have seen a ghost and said, "Brother, to be honest, do you think it's appropriate for me, Nange, to take you to number 1 middle school?" My Nange just finished fighting with number 1 middle school and went to number 1 middle school. Isn't that like falling into a trap? Moreover, his reputation as Nange in number 1 middle school is truly indescribable. After going, he will be beaten to death. Upon hearing this, Xiaonan lowered her head and said, "But my brother is there. I'm here to find him." Mo Bei was still holding a backpack strap in his hand and glanced at number 1 middle school across the street, his expression very indifferent. Zhao Jianjian shook his head and said, "No, my Nan brother can't go. Little brother, you're new here and probably don't understand. Our second middle school and first middle school have always been the ones who die for you. Even if you want to go, you have to call a dozen or so talented people. Let's go." Mo Bei's careless words suddenly caused Zhao Jianjian to pause, then he turned his head and looked at him. "Nange. I saw the person who looked like an iceberg prince, holding a backpack strap in one hand and holding Xiaonan in the other, stepping out of his long legs and walking towards the opposite side. No, Nange. Even if you want to go, wear a mask to ensure personal safety." Zhao Jianjian shouted from behind, but Mo Bei didn't even turn his head. Xiao Nian glanced at him and said, "Bye-bye." When crossing the road, Mo Bei casually asked, "How did you get to the playground?" Upon hearing this, Xiaonan replied somewhat depressed. "When the driver called her brother and heard someone invite him to the playground for a fight, I thought he was here, but he couldn't find him and I got lost. Let her know and say he's stupid again. Your brother wasn't among those people just now." Mo Bei's voice was very calm. At this moment, Xiaonan showed her arrogance. "Those people are ugly and don't care about children when fighting. How could there be my brother? Little brother, I tell you, my brother is so handsome and often uses his face to confuse fans. If it's someone else, they will definitely ask you, what does your brother do? How could he have fans?" But Mo Bei has always had a personality since he was young. He doesn't like to inquire about other people's affairs and is indifferent by nature. However, he is gentle and gentle, like a nobleman from a noble family. "Can I send you here?" At the entrance of a colonel, in front of everyone's eyes. Mo Bei held his backpack in one hand, standing tall like jade with a straight back. "Don't go to see it intentionally." Almost all the spare light could see the disgusted gaze of those students in number 1 middle school. Especially some boys, after seeing Mo Bei, are full of strong unfriendly feelings, as if waiting for an opportunity to move, ready to take action at any time. In the distance, Zhao Jianjian found a pink scarf from somewhere and wrapped it around his face. He then leaned against the wall and glanced at it, then withdrew and lowered his head to press his phone. Class 5 Huangmao. "Brothers, are you there? Are you there? That's it, Nange must have had a bad brain today. He's now standing at the entrance of number 1 middle school with more and more eyes trying to beat him to death. Should I run or should I?" End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Wait until I see my brother before leaving. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Wait until I see my brother before leaving. Class 4 Socialite. "Wait, you can't leave Nange behind. I'll put on my makeup and run over immediately." Zhao Jianjian's reply seems unreliable. "MMP, you're a man putting on makeup. Forget it, he should not be recognized wearing such a sexy scarf." As soon as Zhao Jianjian walked over, he paused. Because it was on the left side of his Nange that 3 people walked over happily and noisily. The 3 of them were not wearing the school uniform of number 1 middle school, but the team uniform in pure white, as if they had just returned from outside. After seeing Mo Bei, a clear mockery appeared on his face. A hint of panic flashed in Zhao Jianjian's eyes. "It's Chen Yu and the others." Chen Yu, who replaced her brother with means to become the new player in the wilderness of the previous team. His skills were all taught by her brother. When he couldn't do it, her brother opened a live broadcast to help him gain followers. Let everyone support their team's newcomer Chinyu. But this person teamed up with the club to show off her brother. Mo Bei raised his eyes, and a hint of light flashed from the corner of his eye. He focused his gaze on the person standing in the middle. Chinyu was very proud, after all, it was his biggest moment now. I said, Mo Nan, did you go to the wrong place? Who gave you the courage to take one? Can it be that you came here to beg Brother Chen to be lenient with you? Captain Chen is talking to you, why don't you just ignore you? Someone reached out to push Mo Bei into the corner, but that person didn't expect that his wrist would be pinched by the other person, and when the pain came, he couldn't break free. The most important thing in playing games is these hands. Mo Bei turned his face and smiled in the person's ear. You must cherish them well. That person's face turned white in pain. This person who always allows them to speak recklessly dares to fight back. Wait for me. You won't be able to mess around in the esports industry again in the future. Mo Bei let go, holding his backpack in one hand and copying it into his pants pocket in the other. I'll wait. The careless ending clearly indicates that the threat was not taken seriously, making the popular face turn blue. But she entered school with her own little milk voice holding her long legs. Monin. The person was waving his teeth and claws as he wanted to rush in. Chinyu reached out to block him, looked at the figure behind him, squinted his eyes, and said, a useless person with an injured hand. No matter what he does, let alone the club has already issued a statement that he has been fired long ago. No matter how much trouble he makes, he is at most just a laughing companion. The person seemed to have calmed down a bit and said, but that guy's attitude just now clearly didn't take Chen's team seriously. Does he have any other thoughts? Chinyu smiled coldly and said, he has ideas, and the team won't want him again. You're right, but today that trash looks different from before. Being replaced, my head was stimulated and I wanted to resist and attract people's attention. Chinyu chuckled and couldn't hide Chinmei. You go tell everyone, just say that Mo Nan is chasing K-God, and they have all come to one middle school. No problem, I'm good at this kind of thing. Walking into Mo Bei in number 1 middle school, one can also feel the gaze from all sides. But there is a small milk sound hanging on my leg all the time, and I can't just stop it. Just here, little brother. When the voice of Xiao Nain rings out. Following behind, Zhao Jianjian, who had been pretending, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Little brother, it's really wise. If I go further, even if I have a scarf, I won't be able to take Nange with me. Fortunately. Little brother, do you also like playing games? My brother is the same. Why don't you wait until you see him before leaving? He's just a bit more skilled in playing games. He's a handsome person, and many people like him, but nothing else. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Is brother he? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Is brother he? Zhao Jianjian was listening beside him, wanting to lie down. Little brother, tell me, your brother can't even do this. What else do you want to do? Can we leave a mouth for ordinary people to eat? If you have the ability, who is your brother? Mo Bei ignored the person around him who had taken off his scarf, lowered his eyes, and met the small face wearing a mask. He said succinctly, I have something else to do. Very light 4 words. Xiao Nain was clearly disappointed and said, can we leave a contact information so that I can introduce my brother to you next time we meet? Mo Bei looked up at the distance, not as if someone was coming, hesitating. Xiao Nain said again, I'm worried that my brother might forget me again. If that's the case, I can still look for him again. Upon hearing this, Mo Bei reported his phone number and WeChat account. Xiao Nain tilted her head and earnestly remembered. Upon seeing this, Mo Bei opened his backpack, took out a piece of paper and a pen, and wrote down his contact information. Xiao Nain happily took it over and said, by the way, little brother, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Feng Lin. You can call me Xiao Neilin. Feng Lin. Why is this name so familiar? Zhao Jianjian is still savoring. Mo Bei over there has already picked up his backpack and is ready to leave. Probably because of his ascetic attire. The people on this side of number 1 middle school were just staring at Mo Bei and didn't rush in. Of course, this is just one of the reasons. Another reason is that they are waiting for God K to personally clean up this mess. I said Feng Nai, Master Feng, King God. You really don't plan to meet that crooked man who came to our number 1 middle school to cause trouble. He's here for you. The light and shadow are swaying. Bored, said the tall and slender figure. He laughed again and said, I guess you have the same attitude, but tomorrow's fight, you have to be there. You can't let the second middle school continue to be so arrogant. The person asking did not receive a response, but he was very clear about the other person's personality. As long as you don't refuse, it's still okay to show your face. However. Wait a minute, where are you going? Looking for someone. The person in the light and shadow finally revealed their face, but unfortunately they were still wearing a black mask and could only see one eye, lazy and distant, with impatience. As for who we are looking for. When he turned the corner. A little girl wearing a black down jacket rushed over and hugged her leg, saying, Brother, where have you been? I've been looking for you for a long time. I've been worried about you for my mom. The figure seemed to smile for a moment, freeing one hand and patting the small face. The ending was a bit cold. Feng Xiaolin, you want to say everything I say. Do you think you don't need to be beaten if you walk around casually? Xiao Nain shook her head and said, I didn't wander around. I heard on the phone that you said you were going to fight, and I wanted to stop you. It's not good to fight. Call your parents again, and Mom stopped your pocket money. My younger brother is really far-sighted. The figure was very casual, and after touching something on his brother's hand with his finger, he paused for a moment. What is this? Xiao Nain couldn't understand his brother's emotions, and finally had another topic to talk about. She immediately said seriously, this was given to me by the little brother who saved my life. The little brother also loves playing games, so in order to repay this life-saving kindness, I plan to take him on a flight tonight. Oh, saving your life is really tragic. Your gaming career is coming to an end. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Mo Bei goes into action. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Mo Bei goes into action. This sentence was so poisonous that the little breasts didn't slow down for a while. His brother has never been close. However, on Weibo, no fans do not know that K-God is a fan. Feng Nai grabbed his pants pocket with one hand and flicked the paper with the other hand, saying, Thank you, little brother, when there's a chance. It's necessary. Little Nai Lin was very happy, thinking that his brother and little brother would definitely get along peacefully. After all, these two people are so handsome. It has been proven that Xiao Neilin is indeed a child. How could the leader of number 1 middle school and number 2 middle school coexist peacefully? The description of natural enemies is most appropriate. At this point, Mo Bei has already left number 1 middle school. Zhao Jianjian only wants to describe this journey as a miracle. However, the girls on this side of number 1 middle school were hesitant to leave when they saw the beautiful young man standing at the entrance of their school. If you get closer to Mo Bei, your face will turn red. After all, people are too handsome. Mainly due to temperament, indifferent and heart-stirring. Zhao Jianjian was dumbfounded. They had never received such treatment before when they came to China. Unfortunately, we can't enjoy it anymore. If we stay any longer, the people in number 1 middle school will react and definitely hold him and his southern brother here, but they will beat them up. Nange, how about we go have a meal and celebrate? For the first time in 10 years, second middle school has defeated first middle school. This is definitely their pride. Mo Bei glanced at his phone and said, "No, I'm still busy." "Isn't what you just said to Xianan the reason for your escape?" Zhao Jianjian was a bit confused. Mo Bei sighed again and finally thought it over. "See you tomorrow." "I'll definitely see you tomorrow. I'm not satisfied with number 1 middle school, so I need to make another appointment." Zhao Jianjian wanted to shout out this sentence, but unfortunately, the location was not quite right, so he could only watch his southern brother go further and further. Strange, what could happen? For Mo Bei, it is indeed a major event. That's transfer. For professional esports players, this is both ordinary and unusual. After all, if the team treats them well, no one wants to transfer. Of course, there are also other situations, such as encountering better development. But neither of her brothers, Monam. But rather excluded by calculation. Twilight, to High Club. This club is located near number 2 middle school, but closer to the company building complex. The manager of the club, Wang Jun, had long been tired of seeing Mo Nan and sold him at any price. "I can't believe there are other teams that will take you. I don't think the other team knows your record, right?" Wang Jun didn't even look at the contents of the contract and signed his name, saying, "I really can't get along anymore. You can come back again. Your face is not good for playing games, it's still very suitable for live streaming. You can make some funny videos or something, maybe it can even become popular." In this case, for a professional esports player, it is simply a humiliation. Wang Dongdong clenched his hands while listening beside him, angry and afraid of being a non-mainstream person. He couldn't help but rage on the spot, and when it came to the internet, it would be black spots again. It would be an irreparable disaster. After sorting out his emotions, Wang Dongdong just wanted to persuade the other party to calm down. But the young man had already stood up, like a nobleman from a noble family, reached out to take the document, smiled lightly, and lowered his voice, saying, "The team you manage is not worth my return. In order to make way for your precious nephew, you can even fabricate my twisted remarks. Wang Jingli, we are all in the same circle, and we will eventually meet again." End of this chapter.